I was tired of my parents grounding me, so I locked them in the basement for a year. It was dark and late at night. I was trying to sneak out of the house through my room's window. I had this really awesome party to get to at my friend's house, but my parents would not allow it. That's why I had no other option but to jump out. So I slowly opened the window and stepped on the windowsill. I held onto the sill and lowered my body and jumped, feet first on the front lawn. I wanted to make as little noise as possible, but it didn't go that way. And the noise was the least of my worries. I had hurt my ankle. It wasn't broken or twisted, but it hurt when moved because of the impact. Suddenly, the lights of the house and the lawn were on, and I could hear my parents coming out. Oh no, I thought. I knew I was in big trouble. But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button, and activate the notification bell, and you will become a millionaire stock trader. Trust me, it works. The front door opened, and my mom and dad stepped out. They instantly saw me and came running towards me. "What on earth are you trying to do, Jamie?" my mom screamed while my dad helped me up and took me inside. He sat me on the sofa and started looking at my ankle. He was a doctor. Then he looked at Mom and asked her to bring the first aid kit. She went to her room and came back in seconds with the kit and gave it to my dad. He took out the pain relief spray bottle from it and sprayed it on my ankle. "This should be good," he said. "Now, tell us, what were you doing? Did you know that could have cost you your legs?" I knew that was coming. My parents, no matter the extent of how hurt I was, would never let me go without lecturing. "I wanted to go to the party. You wouldn't let me," I said. "The party? You think the party is more important than your career in the military?" my mom replied. My mom and my grandfather had both served in the military, so they wanted me to do the same, but I didn't want that. "Jamie, whatever we are doing is for your good. Why don't you get that?" my dad said, and again helped me up and walked me to my room. He sat me on my bed and headed out, but before he closed the door, he said, "You won't be able to go out for 2 days because of your ankle, and after that, you're grounded, and we need to put grills on those windows." "But Dad, I'm 17, I cried out, almost pissed. "Exactly," he replied, closed the door, and left. The next 2 days, I spent my time contemplating ways to get my freedom. My parents were so strict that it suffocated me. Ever since I was a kid, they controlled everything from what I ate to where I went and even who I hung out with, but I wanted the same freedom as my friends. They could hang out wherever they liked and could stay out late too, and some of my friends even knew a few gang members. That was so cool. I could never do that in my parents' presence. They even thought my friends were useless and bad influences. No matter how much I thought, I couldn't figure out the right way to be free from them. On the 3rd day of my accident, I was feeling much better and I could walk properly. However, I wanted my dad to take a look at it once, so I headed to his room. As I reached it, I saw that my dad was opening the safe in their room, so I stopped and didn't enter. I hid beside the door and peeked. I could clearly see the security code he was entering. When he finally opened the safe, my eyes popped. There was a lot of cash and jewelry. I slowly stepped back and went to my room. I had a plan building in my mind. I know exactly what I have to do, I thought. Throughout the day, I prepared for the execution of my plan. I searched my dad's cabinet for his sleeping pills and took a couple of tablets. Then, I called a friend to send me 2 gang members who were strong and told him I would give them money. Finally, I got some chains from the garage and took it to the basement. My house was pretty old, built at the time of war, so the basement was like a panic room with beds to sleep and a toilet. Everything was in place, but I hadn't figured out a way to give the sleeping pills to my parents. But instantly, an idea came to me. I went to the kitchen and started cooking dinner for them. I ground the pills and mixed them in the food. As I was cooking, I heard a knock on the door. They cannot be home from work just yet, I thought, and went to see who it was. There were 2 big guys outside my door. I opened the door and one of them spoke. "Jamie, your friend called us. Said you have a gig for us." "Yeah, come in," I said, and made way for them. I instructed them to go to my room and hide until I called them down and told them that they'll get the money when the job is done. They agreed and went up. Shortly after that, my parents also arrived. They came in and saw the dinner table I had beautifully arranged. "Wow, did you do this all by yourself?" my mom said with excitement. Yeah, you do so much for me, so I thought I should do something for you too, I replied. I asked them to freshen up quickly and have dinner before it got cold, and they did. They devoured the dinner without leaving a single bit on the plate. I could see my plan finally working. After dinner, my dad said to my mom, "I'm feeling a little drowsy. I think I'll go and lie down." "I am feeling the same. It was a long day," she replied. Then they both went to their room and passed out on their bed. After a while, I called down the two gang members, and with their help, I transferred my mom and dad to the basement. The sleeping pills worked so perfectly that they didn't even flinch while we were transferring them. I left them there to tie and chain my parents while I came back up and went to my parents' room. I opened the safe and took out some cash and went down again. The two guys were already done tying and locking my parents, so I went up to them and handed them the money. "I want to make an offer. I will pay you every week if you'll stay here on guard duty," I said. I knew if either of my parents tried to escape, I wouldn't be able to handle it by myself. "Okay, we'll do it shift-wise, one at day and one at night," one of them replied, and went off, and I also went to bed to sleep. The next morning was the beginning of the first day of my freedom. I got up, dressed, and went down. The guy I hired for guarding was already there, so I gave him food money for himself and my parents, and I left. I was free to go anywhere I like, so I decided I would go hang out with my friends. I went to a snooker house where my friends were at and hung out there all day. I returned home super late without any fears or concerns, as there was no one to bother me anymore, and the next few days went just like that. One day in the morning, I got a call on the house phone from my father's clinic. "Hi, is Mr. Russell available?" "No, he and my mom made a spontaneous plan to take a trip to other countries for a year. They left a few days ago and are out of contact. I'll tell them you called when he calls me," I replied and hung up instantly. That was the only excuse I could come up with at the moment. I did the same when my mom's office called, but the offices weren't the only ones inquiring about my parents. One day in the morning, as I was heading out, my nosy neighbor stopped me. "Hey, Jamie, how are you? Where are your parents? Haven't seen them around these days," he asked. I didn't know what to say. I knew the spontaneous trip excuse was not going to work with him, so I told him that my parents had gone to take care of my old and sick grandparents. After that, I told him I was getting late for school and went off. In reality, I had skipped school for so many days now, one of the perks that came with locking my parents in the basement. I was the coolest among my friends now, as I had the most money to spend and could go anywhere and buy anything. One weekend, I was with my friend and suddenly one of my friends said, "Hey, why don't you have a party at your house?" "Yeah, sure," I replied. "We can do it tonight if you like," I replied. I wasn't letting a moment where I could show off go to waste. "That's awesome. I'll start sending the invites," he said. Suddenly, I got a call. It was from the guy on guard duty, so I picked up. "You have to come here, quick," he said and hung up. I got scared and my heart started pounding. Did they escape? I thought. I quickly made up some excuse with my friends and headed home. I reached home still scared. The guard was waiting for me in the living room. "They tried to escape," he said as soon as I got in, "but I didn't let that happen." I was so relieved of hearing that. "You need to talk to them and tell them not to try that again," he said. I had never talked to my parents since I had locked them up, but I had to. I went down and opened the basement door. I saw my mom and dad sitting on their beds, chained to it. I heard that you tried to escape. Don't do that again. Otherwise, I'll have to cut your food and water supply," I said and turned around to leave. "Son, please let us go. Don't do this," my mom said and started to cry. I turned back to them and said, "I have felt exactly how you're feeling right now all my life. You are getting the taste of your own medicine." And then I left and locked the door behind me. In the evening, my friends started to arrive. They had brought drinks and snacks along with them. We put on the music and started dancing, but with the volume on low so that the neighbors wouldn't call the police. During the party, I was approached by so many girls. They all wanted to be friends with me. We drank, took selfies, and danced. After some hours, people started to get tired and headed home. Some of my friends passed out in the living room, so I went to my room to sleep. Weeks and months passed. I was making the most of my freedom. I was having a party at my home almost every week. On my 18th birthday, We partied for 2 days straight, which was so much fun. However, the fun didn't last long. It had been almost a year since I had locked my parents up and started using safe money. I was slowly running out of cash, and I couldn't even afford the guards anymore. So I went to the nearest pawn shop with the jewelry and pawned it for some cash. With that money, I paid the guards and let them go. One day, I was out trying to figure out ways to get money, looking for jobs, but I couldn't figure out anything. I hadn't worked even a single day in my life. Disappointed and tired, I returned to my house since it was getting late. I reached the house and went in. As I turned the lights on, I nearly had a heart attack. There were my mom and dad, my nosy neighbor, and some policemen waiting for me in the living room. I tried to turn around and run, but the policeman came rushing at me and grabbed me. He cuffed me instantly and brought me in front of everyone. I knew something was going on from the very beginning. "You're going to jail for a very long time, Jamie," my neighbor said. He also told me that while I was out, he sneaked into my house to find out what was going on and found my mom and dad locked in the basement and rescued them. "Dad, Mom, please, I'm so sorry. Don't let them take me," I said as the policeman was pulling me to take me away. They didn't say a word or even look at me. "You're going to be tried as an adult since you're 18. So you're going to be locked up for a very long time, like you locked your parents," the policeman said. And I instantly regretted everything. Thanks for watching. So what do you think? Have you ever done something that you regret? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and check out other videos on the channel.